Hey, this is Metal Mike, and welcome to the newest Metal for Life column. This month's column is called Battle Hymns, and we are going to talk about some standard structures in putting together metal riffs, but I am going to show you a couple things from the left field that will make your riffs sound cool and a lot more interesting. Check this out. Okay, let me show you what I am doing in this particular example. This whole entire riff consists of mostly single note type playing, bouncing off of open E string, except at each tail end of each section I do some chording. And I think the chords in the riff is the thing that makes the riff cool and a little unusual. All right, so let me break it down for you right now. The beginning of the riff is all on a 6th string, and it goes like this. Right, so it's a basically open string rhythm on the 6th string, on the low string, and you have single notes. Pretty straightforward. You repeat the beginning part of the riff before going into the chordal turnaround. And the chords are coming in right after this, and it goes something like this. I'll play it for you slowly, and then I'll explain. Right? So it's interesting because the first chord that you hear is this D chord, which are the open A and D strings together. And I follow it by a B and a B flat. Right, so you almost have sort of like a, I think less of a chords and I think more of a grind behind it. And you have, after you play the first 4 chords, you have 2 notes, which are kind of like a chromatic thing. Now you go through the whole riff again. And to finish it off, you have another chordal idea. And this is basically like a E flat 5 type of chord, basically. I just don't even think of it harmonically. I just do it's a shape. And I do again sort of like a grindy. So you have an open string, chord, slide down to E flat and go back to the E. And I finish the riff off by going open string, and then I have this awesome Jeff Loomis type ending. Okay, so this next riff is all single notes. They are played very straightforward. But the payoff, the cool part about this riff, is on the 3-note groupings that end each phrase. All right, check this out. Okay, let me teach this example to you, and this is how it goes. So the rhythm on this is fairly standard straight up throughout, except as we said, towards the consecutive pull-offs at the end. And the beginning of this riff is simply this. Right? You have two open strings, B and a C, and this is the starting point for all of the lick. Following these four notes, you have two notes on a A string that are pulled off. Check this out. Right? So you have, when you play it, you definitely want to mute the bottom string so you have that nice tight beginning and you pull off to get a little bit of like a self-equalization for riff, what I call it. Right? So the riff kind of opens up. The second part of this riff is exactly the same, except instead of going from the E to the D, we'll go from the E flat to the D. So you have this cool chromatic change that sort of takes your ear a tiny bit to adjust and makes the lick difficult to figure out. So you see, for the third time, I went back to the same exact way I played the lick first time, which was from the E to D. Let me play this little section for you again. And now the ending of the riff for the first time. It's actually a series of triplets, and I pick the first note and I pull off the second and the third note in the series. So it goes like this. Right? So I pick the first note, pull off, pick the next note, pull off. So this is how the part goes. Right? So you want to get nice, tight, good, almost like a pinch harmonic on the first note, and pull the strings nice and even on the way down. Now the cool thing is that this riff repeats almost exactly the same as it comes to the fifth and the sixth string, but the tail end is a little bit different. The tail end goes the opposite way, and this is how it goes. Check this out. Right? So you basically play these three notes, G, A, and B on the sixth string, move it up to the same exact frets, C, D, and E on the fifth string. You play that twice, and you finish that off with a 5, 7, and 8. All right, and the final lick example for our column is going to be an idea of almost playing two guitar parts while playing one guitar, obviously. And we're going to have nice big open chords on the bottom while you are keeping nice steady rhythm on a bottom string, okay? And this is really going to open up. It's almost going to sound like two guitar players playing a part of the song. Ideas like this are very common in black metal bands like Behemoth, Emperor, or Dimmu Borgir. So I'm psyched to show it to you. Check this out. Okay, so let me show you what I am doing right here. It's an interesting example of approaching to play this, because you want these chords to fully ring out, right? You want the nice... And the idea is that you want to have that bottom rhythm happening. And one thing I'm going to tell you guys right now is that I tend to hit those chords closer to the neck, more like around a neck pickup. When I hit the rhythm behind it, I move my hand a little bit back to the bridge. And that variety in EQ where you get in the guitar is what makes the two parts coexist, right? So if your chords sound nice and round and big, and you have that bottom part that sort of like shreds on the bottom, it's two different sounds which will make your ear think that there's two different guitar players playing, right? So that's the trick. That's the part that makes this lick play. That's the part that makes this example cool to me. So let me show you what I'm doing. Okay, so this riff consists of chords that are always on a fifth string, and the chords are always formed by playing notes on strings 5, 4, and 3, and they all contain open two strings. So you basically have a B and E note on top of every chord you play. And because of that, your chords start to open up because that B and E note on top of every chord that we play adds these cool intervals that sometimes are flat 9, sharp 11. Without getting too technical on it, your brain just sort of hears this massive sound, and that's the beauty of this riff. So playing-wise, you're not doing a whole lot. You're just playing chords, and you let those two notes work their technical musical magic, all right? So this is it. So the first chord is basically an E power chord with the octave and a fifth, and I open top in E strings, very common. So the trick is to get that chord in there and get that bottom string to ring out, to get the rhythm going while the chord's ringing out. So you have to practice that because it's not as easy to do as it sounds. You hear that? You heard that whole E chord while you also heard the rhythm on the E string. And that will teach you a lot about your guitar if you get that sound right. So right there, I played the same exact chord except on a C, and it gave you a C major 7 sound, which is awesome. It's kind of like a freebie, right? Here's my favorite chord, which bands like Dream Theater or Fates Warning uses. I just think of it as like F sus2. I think of it as a fifth and sort of like the ninth added right there. And I love that chord. And you add the top two strings, sounds really cool. Of course, we have the B flat power chord right here that you'll have a flat 5 and flat 9 on top, which is cool. But to us as metalheads, it's just straight up power chord in B flat, and you let those two strings rip.